anyone. It's through the National Connection Daily put out by the National School Board Association.
Good. Thank you. Mrs. Fisher.
Yes. In the spirit of cooperation, as board members begin a new year of service, I would like to make a plea that we consider holding a work session or work sessions to discuss the pros and cons of small learning communities in general and those we currently operate specifically. In so doing, rather than characterize fears and concerns, let's gather facts. Rather than make accusations, let's listen to one another's ideas. And most importantly, rather than promoting any personal agendas, let's consider what is in the best interest of our students and our community. Only when this board can respectfully and logically make a decision that would solve our dilemma can we expect to be successful in promoting any plan to other government entities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Dr. Hardings.
Yes, I was going to make this comment at the last meeting, but it got to be so late that I thought that it probably was best for us to just adjourn. There has been some discussion from commissioners and even some in the delegation about our enrollment capacity, particularly at the high school level. The suggestion being that because we have a projection that we do every year, which is required by the state of Maryland for their planning purposes, projection of our enrollment versus our existing capacity in terms of seats. Our most recent projection says that in the year 2024, we will have about 200 more high school seats than we will students in 2024. And that's certainly true. I mean, this is a copy of the document. I think it was presented here publicly by I can't remember the woman's name from Ohio who does our projections, but she was here and provided us this report a number of months ago. And it's certainly true that that these projections show that in 2024 we will have 200 some more seats available than we will have students at the high school level. The suggestion seems to be, though, that somehow that means that we don't have anything to worry about for 10 years in terms of enrollment or capacity. And the suggestion was further made that we only need to look to Carroll County to see a county that made a mistake with building, because Carroll County is looking to close some high schools after they just built some high schools a few years ago. And I think that's a good cautionary tale. But I would respond a few things to that way of thinking. First is, I think if somebody's looking for an example of how not to do what Carroll County did, and again, I don't know their board members and haven't talked to them, so I don't want to cast any aspersions towards them. But I think you could look no further than Washington County. 10 years ago, we had a comprehensive high school in our facilities master plan, and instead built a smaller school, which was the Barbara Ingram School, and have since taken the comprehensive high school out of our master plan. So I think we've shown an example of how when you continue to plan and evaluate every year and look out towards the future, that certainly we've been very flexible, as we always say, with what that master plan document looks like. And I think that planning has put us in a position where we don't have to consider, do we have too much high school space or whatever the case might be. The second point I would make is the reason that there are only 200 excess seats in 2024, or that there are 200 excess seats in 2024, is because we built the Barbara Ingram School. If we hadn't built that school, there would be roughly 0 excess seats. So I think that also has to be considered a part of that broader picture about school construction. The third point I would make is that the IAC and the Board of Public Works do not make their funding decisions based on looking at the entire county, how many students you have, and how many available seats you have. They make it based on a more regional view of what seats are available around which students. The final point I would make, and I think this is critical to be a part of the discussion if we're going to use this kind of analysis to consider whether we need more capacity at the high school level, is I think you have to look at where those seats are. So I went and looked at the projected available seats in 2024, and there would be, let's see, 227 of them would be at Hancock, 123 of them would be at Clear Spring, 200 would be at Boonesboro, and about 150 of them would be at Smithsburg. The schools where there is a lack of capacity, meaning many more students than there is space, are South High, Williamsport, and Barbara Ingram. So if we are going to utilize those seats that are available in the macroscopic view of what seats are available in order to address any capacity issues 10 years from now, then we also need to be honest about saying what that would mean. And what it would mean is probably redistricting about 120 students from Clear Spring to Hancock, probably more like 200. Then redistricting probably 300 students from around the Hagerstown area to Clear Spring, because that's the only way you can make use of those students, is to push students out from Hagerstown towards Clear Spring and to Hancock, and to push students from the Hagerstown area to Smithsburg, or to push students from the Hagerstown area to Boonesboro. And you'd probably have to redistrict some Williamsport students out to Clear Spring as well. That's just the way the map works. I mean, that's where people live, and that's where the capacity is versus where the extra students are. So I'm not saying that the people who are suggesting this are wrong. They're absolutely right about the raw numbers. But I think we also have to be honest about if this is the approach that we're going to take to addressing capacity, that what it's going to mean is a massive redistricting and moving students from Hagerstown out to Hancock and to Clear Spring and to the edges of the county. And that's a legitimate policy discussion that I think this board can have, that we can have certainly with our funding partners. But I think we should all be honest about the fact that if that's how we're going to address capacity, that's what the consequence will be. So that's all I have to say.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Dr. Hardings. Dr. Wilcox, any final words?
Thank you.
Mrs. Williams?
I would just like to thank Dr. Pugh and Dr. Kohanic and the teachers and the principals who presented to us today at the work session. I thought that it was an excellent exchange of information and has certainly given me a lot to think about with regard to the digital learning plan. So I thank you, and I thank those teachers and principals for sharing their enthusiasm for the technology that they're using and all the great things that they're doing for our kids. In our HR committee this past Tuesday, I asked that an action item be brought forth for placement on the agenda. And that would be that, once again, and I've asked for this repeatedly, but I'm going to make one more plea for it, and that's for diversity and cultural competency training for members of the board. Everyone else in the school system is having the opportunity to learn and grow, and I think it's important that we also have the experience of this kind of professional development on this particular topic. So I'm going to ask once again that we have as an action item on the agenda this training for board members.
So noted. Mrs. Harshman?
Nothing.
Ms. Greenwald?
I have nothing this time.
Very good. Yes.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. That brings us to the end of the agenda, and we are adjourned for this afternoon. Thank you.